Skinflick, a Dave Brandstetter mystery, Book 5. Author, Joseph Hansen. Publisher, Open Road Integrated Media. Narrator, Eric Aust. In memory of Dr. Dreadful, who left too soon. Chapter 15. Pinatas hung from the old black rafters of a lean-to roof above Salazar's beautiful head. They seemed to float there like animals in a Chagall painting. Papier-mâché goats, burros, chickens, furred and feathered in shredded tissue papers. Colors bright and clashing. Red, orange, green, blue, bubblegum pink. With flat tissue paper eyes. They watch Indianians in Bermuda shorts and sundresses inch their way along the narrow bricked lanes between the Harashi booths, sombrero booths, serape booths, the cactus candy and woven basket booths of Alavara Street. Mariachi music twanged and tin trumpeted from loudspeakers. The hot air was thick with chili smells from greasy taco stands, and a quartet of rouged children with paper roses in their hair and spangles on ruffled skirts danced to the music. Behind Salazar, strings of shiny painted gourds framed a dark restaurant doorway. He sat across from Dave at a gingham-covered table and ate enchiladas, as Dave did, washing them down, as Dave did, with orange soda from thick, lukewarm bottles. "I can't arrest him. How can I arrest him?" He wiped his chin with a paper napkin. He looked like a silent movie idol. "Gilbert Rowland?" "Ken Barker says he was murdered on his own street in L.A. Ken Barker says this porno shop owner killed him. Now I'm supposed to come barging in and say he was killed in some apartment on the Strip. His own kid killed him." "His own kid admits he was there," Dave said. "Cohen saw him there." "Cohen didn't see any murder," Salazar said. "But nobody saw Gerald Dawson alive after that. The medical examiner says he was killed between 10 and midnight, and Bucky lied to Barker." Salazar shook his head and moodily poked at his refritos with his fork. "It doesn't make a murder case," he said. "All it makes is a family fight." "Come on now," Dave said. "You don't believe that. What's the matter? Is it the car you're worried about? Why didn't the wife, the widow, think of it afterward? Get into her own car with Bucky, drive back there so Bucky could drive Dawson's car home, while she followed in her own car." "People get hysterical. They forget details." Glumly, Salazar drank orange soda. "Even details as big as a car." "Alone, maybe," Dave said. "A kid, especially. But he wasn't alone. His mother helped. So did the preacher. They even remembered a detail as small as the keys." Salazar's mouth was full of pink rice. He looked his question with big, smoldering brown eyes. If Dawson had driven himself home and was in the process of opening the garage, the keys would have been in his hand. They weren't. Or in his pocket. Or on the street. They weren't anywhere. Leon Tocker didn't have them. I suggest you search Bucky's room." "You're kidding." Salazar paused with a forkful of enchilada halfway to his mouth. "Why hide the stupid keys?" "Because two of them fitted this Strip apartment. The street door, the door to Unit 36. Why not get rid of them and leave the car keys?" Salazar put the forkful of food into his mouth. "Because he didn't know which they were. There would have been keys to Superstar Rentals there, too. Anyway, you mentioned hysteria." Salazar washed the food down with orange soda. "And you mentioned presence of mind. You can't have it both ways, Brandstetter. If it was like you say, he could have stripped off all the keys, but the ones for the car." "Not without prompting a lot of questions," Dave said. It was better to take the chance of the cops assuming the killer had taken the whole bunch and thrown them away. "And why didn't he?" Salazar said. "Because Bucky drove the car and he still has them," Salazar cocked an eyebrow, pressed his mouth tight, shook his head. Barker says you're very, very smart. But there are different kinds of smart, aren't there? What I hear in all this is the rattle of a cash register. You're trying to say that insurance company that hired you money. Tocker can't help you, but the widow and orphan can, right? Tocker didn't have anything to do with this. What about the horse stuff on the deceased's clothes? Check the closet in Unit 36. Dave said, the shoes there, the dirt on the floor. Yeah, Unit 36. Salazar brushed a flyaway from the guacamole bowl. What did the widow and the kid care about Unit 36? They didn't care about anything else, Dave said. If you can't grasp that, no wonder you don't believe me. Let me explain it to you one more time. What they were trying to do by losing the keys to the place, bringing the body away from there, bringing the car away from there, wasn't just to avoid a charge of murder. One, they wanted it to look as if Gerald R. Dawson had never set foot in that apartment, never touched that girl. To them, the Strip is Sodom and Gomorrah. Gerald R. Dawson was a saint. Salazar didn't say anything. He only looked. He dipped a chip of fried tortilla into the guacamole, put it into his mouth, and munched. He licked his fingers. Dave said, they want the police, the Times, the Examiner, the Eyewitness News, everybody, the world to think their beloved husband and father was, in death as in life, the same upright and unsullied crusader for Christ they'd always believed he was. Hell, Bucky showed me that the first morning. I saw him. He claimed those porno magazines he was burning were his. They weren't. His father had ripped them off at Leon Tocker's shop. But Bucky didn't care about bringing what his unreal little world would call disgrace on himself. No matter what it cost him, he was going to protect his father's image. Even if he had to kill him to do it. Salazar picked up his orange soda bottle and set it down again. He laughed, not happily, hopelessly. Wow, that is weird, Brandstetter. You know that, don't you, weird? If your lab people will take their little vacuum cleaners and go over that apartment, Dave said, you'll see it's not all that weird. Mrs. Dawson wasn't able to save her husband from hellfire. Lionel Shamati was his minister and friend, but he failed. Bucky failed, and he couldn't accept it. Maybe he talked it over with Mama. Maybe not. But he went back there and tried to use force, and something went wrong. Bucky claimed his dad couldn't fight, but he must have tried. Anyway, he ended up dead. Weird, Salazar said again and stacked his dishes. I mean, even if you accept it as accidental, it's still weird. And anyway, what about the girl? You've been in that unit. Her body's not there. Where is she? Damned if I know. Dave got off the creaky wooden chair. I can't see Bucky killing her in cold blood. He picked up the check, took out his glass, and read it. But where did she go? I keep seeing twiggy little girls under haystacks of hair and hoping they're her. They never are. He tucked the glasses away. I don't find Bucky easy to believe, but I can't shake the feeling she's still alive. Not if he killed his old man. Salazar stood up and stretched. His fist struck the piñatas. They swung and jostled each other, rustling. Not if she saw him do it. He steadied the piñatas, ducking under their trailing fringes. Dave went down through the dark doorway into the restaurant and paid the check. When he came back outside, Salazar was tossing dimes and quarters to the dancing children. Dave said to him, "Check out that apartment, please." "Barker won't like it," Salazar said. "It will be one less case for him to worry about." Hot daylight came down through the roof into the big room. Sawdust drifted in the shafts above. The shadows of the speechless sons moved. Their shoes clunked and shuffled. Saws whined. Hammers banged. Amanda stood looking up, shading her eyes with a hand and trying to talk over the racket. Beside her stood Ken Barker. He nodded. He pointed. His bulk made Amanda look very small and fragile. With Homo sapiens, nature was still building experimental models. and they could have represented different species. He crossed the sawdusty floor to stand beside them. Barker turned him a soured look. Through the carpentry noises, he said, "You're making yourself damned unpopular." "I can't hear you," Dave lied. He kissed Amanda's forehead and led Barker out into the courtyard, where grouchy, one-armed Dad still sat in the speckled shade of the big oak, methodically clamping bricks between his knees and whacking mortar off them with his trowel. Amanda went to him and they conferred. Dave led Barker into the cookhouse, got beer from the refrigerator, pried off the caps, and handed a bottle to Barker. "Salazar drinks orange soda pop with his Mexican food. I thought I better have as clear his head as he had." "Mrs. Dawson is getting out a restraining order against you," Barker said. "She told me and the DA you were harassing her and accusing her son of murder." "I don't have to ask you if it's true. I know you." Dave leaned against a sink counter and told him the whole long story. He was getting bored with it now, also uneasy. There was a warped, pathetic kind of logic to Bucky's killing his father. An inevitability. Dawson had set standards he couldn't live by himself. His son was too young yet to have begun to doubt them. The thing had been building from the day Bucky was born. But not Charlene's death. They made an awkward match. He didn't put this into words for Barker. He finished his Dos Equis and his story. "There's no restraining order against you. Go through Bucky's room. You'll find those keys." Barker dug into a pocket. He held up keys on a small, bright ring that dangled off a stiff leather fob. Dave put out a hand for them. Barker dropped them into his hand. "Jesus Saves" was stamped into the fob. There had been gilt in the letters once. It had almost all rubbed off. "Where'd you get them?" "Not from Tocker." Barker's smile was ironic. "Bucky, this morning, after your visit, he thought it was time to tell the truth, the whole truth. He and his mother did go to the strip to collect Dad's car, but in the morning after she found the body, before she phoned us. Meaning, they didn't know he was dead. Till then." "You got it." Barker set his empty bottle down on the cold stove, opened the refrigerator, brought out 2 full bottles. He stretched an arm past Dave for the opener on the counter. The bottles went when he uncapped them. He handed one to Dave and tilted one up himself. "Why isn't that just another lie?" Dave said. "Because Bucky remembered a witness, a black in a starchy security uniform, who's too old to care about sleeping anymore, and who looks after Sylvia Katzman's underground garage. He isn't too good at standing around these days." Barker reached into Dave's shirt pocket for a cigarette and let Dave light it for him. "So he parks his 1962 Cavalier right next to the driveway on the street, and he sits in it until some tenant slips in. Then he gets out and looks alert and protective, with that big revolver on his hip until they leave the garage. Then he gets back into his car. He can see a lot from there, not just who drives in, but anyone who walks up the stairs to the front door. He saw Mildred Dawson around 8, Lyle Schmatti around 9, Bucky around 10. Come and go. He saw Bucky again when he came to fetch his father's car, a little after dawn next morning. They even exchanged some words about it. But he didn't see Bucky a second time, the night of the murder." Dave lit a cigarette for himself. "At 11. "Negative," Barker said. "And never any Charlene. Not at any time, or any Gerald Dawson. Dead or alive." Barker went and leaned in the doorway, gazing across the courtyard at the stolid suns on the front roof. He blew away tobacco smoke. It didn't drift much. The air was still. "Of course, he has to go to the toilet. The old prostate isn't what it once was. He could have missed Bucky coming back and carrying out 2 dead bodies. He doesn't think so, and neither do I." "We know where Dawson's body went," Dave said, "but not Charlene's. It's not in her apartment. I've been there. But Cohen saw her try to run away and saw Bucky drag her back inside. And that's the last anyone ever saw of her." He frowned to himself. "She must have been hurt. She wasn't drunk. There were no liquor bottles in the place." Barker turned and drank beer and studied him. You sound shaky. You're always on target on this. You're missing all over the place. What is it? No ground under your feet. I knew you meant a lot to Medallion. I didn't think Medallion meant that much to you. You're all of a sudden insecure, right? Forget it, Dave said disgustedly. I make mistakes all the time. You know that. What did Salazar do? Only tell me he looked at that apartment. He's got a team there, Barker said. I happened to stumble across them. But Dawson wasn't killed there, and you know it. He cocked his head. You've been through the place. You'd have found the signs, wouldn't you? He died of a broken neck. Broken neck, strangulation, suffocation. 99 times out of 100, the muscles that control the bladder and bowels let go. They had let go. Dave, when you got to the body, yes, Dave said. More than 6 hours afterward, in hot weather. That's normal. 99 times out of 100 is a sloppy figure. Amanda came to the door. Aha! Do I get there too? In judicial hangings, where the neck is broken? Barker said. It's 100%. In judicial hangings, Dave said. There's anxiety beforehand. There are nerves at work. Dawson wasn't expecting his neck to be broken. Dear God! Amanda ducked in past Barker, peered into the dark refrigerator, and brought out the cardboard carton. The Dos Equos had come in. It was empty, she said in a faint, wavery voice, trying to smile. Time to go store side. I'll go. Dave took a step. No, you two stay and have your cheerful little chat. She looked pale. I think I'd like to miss it. I'm sorry all over again, Dave said. Barker asked. Did I say something wrong? Amanda gave her head a weighing little shake. It comes with the territory, she said and fled. But she came running back breathless after a moment. I forgot. Someone called Randy Van has been on the phone for you. Strange voice. Would it be a boy type or a girl type? He hasn't made up his mind yet, Dave said. She looked blank and went away, and Dave told Barker. Anyway, Tocker can go back to his horses. Not if Dawson was killed in front of his house, Barker said, and I still think he was. And Dave shook his head. That old black man was asleep. Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold. To offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides. And in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.